Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel, where today I'm going to finally update you on everything that's been going on in the last month or so. I have not filmed one of these in quite a while, mostly because it is the end of school, or it was. And apart from it being really busy because my kids are in school, I also work in education, so it was just a complete mess in my house. And honestly, I wouldn't have had anything to update you on because, like, literally there were 2 weeks in there where I didn't read a single page, and like didn't have a lot of brain power for honestly anything much more than like staring at a wall. But I am finally back at being able to like do things, and so I can finally update you on what's been happening. As usual, we're going to start with my reading. And we're going to start with A Symphony of Echoes by Jodi Taylor. So this is the second book in the Chronicles of St. Mary's series, and it follows a bunch of historians as they time travel. So it's an adult time travel kind of novel. But basically, they go back in time to these big historical events and go to observe the truth of what happened, and also to geek out because they're a bunch of historians, so they all want to be there. And of course, there's some other plot lines going on, some villains and things that they have to figure out. I started this series at the request of a friend, so I did give it a very much more of a try than I normally give these kinds of books, but ultimately I ended up DNFing this one at 100 pages. And what I found is it's just not for me. It's not bad, and I just wasn't really enjoying it. It was the kind of thing where, like, I don't like any of the characters. Don't dislike them, but I don't like any of them. And there's like, the world building is really interesting, but it sits in that weird place where I'm like, either give me more or give me less, but like what the amount you're giving me does not work for me. Or like the plot is really interesting, but I don't like how it's being structured. All these kind of nitpicky things that are all about me and how I enjoy reading novels. And so what I found was that the writing was really nice, and there were these really like engaging things that were happening in the plot. So I'd always want to sit down and read it. But then when I read it, I would only want to read about a chapter or two before I was done and putting the book back down. And when I put the book down, I felt vaguely unsatisfied with the experience. And so it's like very much one of those things where it's me. It's not this book, it's just me. It fell flat for me. And I'm a little sad because it could have been amazing, but ultimately, like, it's okay because I know that there is an audience for this book. It just unfortunately does not include me. And so then the other book that I mentioned in my last video is The Splinter in the Sky by Kemi Ashingiwa. And this is an adult science fiction where we're following Eniton, who lives on a planet that has been colonized by the Empire. And one day their sibling goes missing, and then very quickly after that their lover is killed. So when the Empire comes and is just like, we're requesting a hostage to be held against the good behavior of your planet, Eniton volunteers to go to the capital with the colonizers, the people who colonized her planet, to maybe figure out information about where her sibling is. And the story kind of goes from there. And unfortunately, this is another book that I ended up DNFing. This one is a little harder to pin down exactly why I was struggling with it. There are two main things that I can say. The first is that it obviously has some really heavy colonization themes, and it was just making me really angry. It's the kind of thing where injustice makes me incredibly angry, and so books that handle injustices, like, there's a lot of them that I just end up having to put down because it makes me so angry that I become a deeply unpleasant person in my real life. And so this was definitely on the edge of that. But also, like, there's just something about it where I can't really put my finger on it, but it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. I don't think it's bad, but given the fact that it was making me angry, I'm like, it needs to be a lot better for me to want to continue this. And it's the kind of thing where it's like, what needs to be better? I don't know. It just needs to be better. I don't think it's bad. I think it's actually pretty good and very solid considering it's a debut. It's just for me, with handling these kinds of injustices that tend to make me really angry, I need it to be better than just good or okay. I need it to be really good to excellent. And so because of that, I ended up DNFing it at page 144. And then after that, I tried some books from my library, as I want to do. And ultimately, like after 20 or 30 pages for 4 of these books, I decided they weren't for me, which is something that I tend to do. But that also, and while I'm not going to actually mention the book titles because they weren't for me and I don't have much to say about them, it did take up kind of a bit of time to read enough in these books to know it wasn't for me for 4 of them. So that was some of my reading time as well. And then that brings us up to what am I in the middle of right now? First and foremost, I'm in the middle of Caliban's War by James S.A. Corey. This is the second book in the Expanse series, which is an adult epic science fiction series. I am listening to this on audio. It is a reread. And it's going okay. Like, I like this book better for some reasons and worse for some others. So, like, I like the plot in the first book better. The plot of this one is still pretty solid, but just not as much, like, to my taste. It feels very much like a second book kind of plot. But I do like the fact, well, we have 4 perspectives, which the first time I read it was a little bit hard to kind of wrap my head around. But I actually like 2 of the perspectives, which is an improvement. So it is really hard to kind of get into, partially because of the audio is so long. It's a 20-hour audiobook, which for me is extremely long. And I'm only a third of the way into it. And I have no idea if I'm going to finish this before my audiobook goes back to the library. So that's going to be a really interesting thing. But I am in the middle of it. I'm liking it well enough. I remember liking it better the first time I read this, which is making me a little wary of the third book. But we'll see how it goes. I'm still only a third of the way into it. I am hopeful. I don't know if that hope is justified, but I am hopeful. And then I'm also in the middle of Iron and Magic by Ilona Andrews. This is the first book in the Iron Covenant series, which is an adult urban fantasy series. And this is a spin-off series from the Kate Daniels series. So it's in the Kate Daniels world, and we're following our main character of Hugh Dambray. Now, this is urban fantasy. It has got a very strong romantic element to the point where some people, if you picked this up as a standalone, it would read more romantasy, honestly, especially considering that we're in a kind of enemies to lovers romance situation. I'm about halfway into this book and I'm liking it well enough. I like it because it's Ilona Andrews. I like it because it's the Kate Daniels world. This is not my favorite book, though, because it's following a character that I don't necessarily care a ton about. And, like, while I'm warming up to him a little bit, it's still not amazing at the moment. And enemies to lovers just isn't my trope. So, like, it's being done pretty well because it's done by an author that I really enjoy, but it's not my favorite. I'm thinking this is probably going to sit at like a solid 3.75 for me. So good, solid book, but definitely not the highest rated book from Ilona Andrews for me. So I'm still enjoying it pretty well, and it's solid. It's solid. I am enjoying it, and we're just going to keep going. And then I'm also in the middle of Where Peace is Lost by Valerie Valdez. This is an adult science fiction book, and we're following our main character of Kel, who's kind of like on this planet, and she's got secrets, and now she's on this mission where like she's going to go help save her planet potentially, but it's also running the risk that people are going to find out about her past. And I don't really know much more about this book, even though I'm like a quarter of the way into this. Which is kind of amazing. But it's definitely one of those where the description gives you the setup but really doesn't tell you where it's going to be going. I was a little wary picking this up because I tried Valerie Valdez's first novel, and it was like more humorous, and the humor definitely didn't work for me. But this one is much more serious, which I am like so excited about. It works a lot better. And like, I was a little bit, I don't know if I'm going to love this for like the first like 40 pages, but after those first 40 pages, the more I read, the more I was like, no, I'm enjoying this. I'm really kind of into this. It's got a really interesting world, and like I'm enjoying the character dynamics, and I don't know, we'll see, continue to see how it goes. Like, I'm 100 pages in, and so is that a quarter of the way? A little bit less, a little bit more than a quarter of the way. So we're just going to continue on with this one as well. And then lastly, I am also in the middle of Everyone on This Train is a Suspect by Benjamin Stevenson. And this is the second book in this murder mystery series. And I really liked the first book, which was Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. And it was really interesting because it was a murder mystery, but the framing was that it was written as a memoir from the main character. This is the same thing for this book. It's framed as a memoir written by the main character. But the first one was so funny and interesting, and like, I'm not usually a murder mystery person, but it worked really well for me. So I was very excited to pick up this book. I'm only about 50 pages in, so we're very much into like the setup piece of it. But the prologue was perfect. It was so good. So I'm happy to be reading this particular book. So besides doing some amount of reading, I also have been doing a few other things. Like, I did actually finish my Lego set, my Viking Village Lego set. I finally finished it. And then I had it up for about a week, and then I also just fully pulled it apart, which is very distressing to the rest of my family, who like to like build the Legos and then have them out for like half a year, whatever, before they're like, oh, okay, I'm done with that now. I am the person that likes to build and likes to take it apart and build again. So, but I built it. I've taken it apart already. It's nicely packed away for the next time that I want to build it. I have been watching some amount of YouTube, including John Oliver videos, which I'm so excited about because those are ones that are really hard for me to watch, just because they're long and they're involved, and like I actually have to pay attention. And so I've done really well. My watch later list is down by 30 since the last video, which is amazing because I've been adding more too. So I'm really excited with that progress. I have played so much Gems of War, which is a video game, and it's been perfect. It has been absolutely perfect these last couple of weeks because it requires some amount of brain power, but it doesn't require a lot. And so it's honestly been really fun to figure out how the different aspects of this game, and I'm still learning, but yeah, I've been playing so much of this video game. And then as of the last week, since school really ended, I've also been kind of slowly pulling my life together and doing all those things that I've ignored for the last month and a half. So cleaning my house and like actually making real meals for everybody, and like reconciling my credit card statement, and I don't know, like looking at my email and just doing these things that I have ignored very slowly, very casually, but definitely chipping away at that pile of things that need to get done. So that's mostly what I've been doing. Otherwise, it was just kind of work and getting through the end of the year, surviving, which I did very well, thank you. As for what I think I'm gonna do next week, the only thing I really have to do is I need to read these books, because I'm going to be going on a vacation fairly shortly. So obviously I do actually need to start prepping for that vacation and getting my stuff together and like, you know, all the little odds and ends kind of things you do before you leave. But also I need to read these books because these two are library books. These two. This one has holds on it, so like it won't auto renew. But I need to finish them so they can go back to the library. This is one that I own, but like I don't want to take it with me. So I really need to finish that. My audiobook, Caliban's War, I also need to finish because that's going to automatically go back to the library. this coming week. I don't actually know if I'm going to finish it. I want to finish this, but I have like 12 or 13 hours left and it's going to go back this week and I just don't know if I can accomplish it. But I'm going to try. So I'm going to try to read all the books. I'm going to prepare for my vacation. Once I'm actually on vacation, it's going to be like socializing and relaxing. And I don't know what else I'm going to read. I don't know what books I'm going to take with me. Well, I know I'm going to take my Kindle, which means I'm going to have access to a ton of trashy romance, as well as whatever I can get from my library on ebook. But I don't know yet what physical books I'm going to take. I'm trying to keep it to a minimum. So I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but you'll find out in the next update. I'll find out soon when I start actually packing, but you'll find out in the next update. And that's really all I've got going on. So like, this really is the big thing, is that I need to read. I need to read these books and take them back to the library. So I think that's all I've got for you. So if you have any thoughts or feelings about anything that I mentioned in this video, please leave me a comment down below. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And until next time, have happy reading, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!